Hearing from the candidates in a landmark race for U.S. Senate.
The Democrats have nothing to run on.
She's engaging in ridiculous attacks.
The most pressing issues in one of Arizona's largest congressional districts.
Public education only becomes important to the legislatures when there's an election.
Plus, a look ahead at the home stretch to Election Day.
I think you're going to see a higher voter turnout this year than we've seen in a long, long time.
Hello and welcome to Arizona 360. I'm Lorraine Rivera. Thank you so much for joining us. U.S. Senate candidates met for the first and only time in a race watched closely by voters in Arizona and politicos nationwide. Republican Martha McSally and Democrat Kyrsten Sinema debated in Phoenix at a forum hosted by Arizona PBS.
There'll be some differences that you'll see clear in this evening.
Their contrasting opinions showcased on a range of issues.
He went to D.C. to shake things up, and he's doing that.
Representative Martha McSally stood by President Donald Trump and touted her support for his administration's initiatives like tax reform.
I voted to cut your taxes.
On the other hand, Representative Kyrsten Sinema emphasized her reputation as a Democrat willing to vote across the aisle.
And folks know in Arizona, I'll always put their interests first, never party.
Differences between the two became more evident, like whether they would have voted to confirm Justice Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, with McSally saying she would vote yes, while blaming Democrats for the public scrutiny placed on Kavanaugh's accuser.
Look, I'm a survivor of sexual abuse myself. She clearly had been through a trauma.
And Sinema, after much prodding from the debate moderators,
we still haven't gotten an answer. We've received no answer from you.
Saying she would have voted against his confirmation.
The decision I would have made based on lying under oath would have been to vote no.
It's a race that most polls show is neck and neck and has captured national attention.
Tonight, we're going to take a look at one of the closest Senate races in the country.
A tight race in Arizona could help determine control of the U.S. Senate.
Say 80% will actually cast their votes before Election Day. Arizona is not elected.
In Arizona, where a third of voters don't belong to either party, those undecided saw more opposing responses when it came to health care and immigration.
The Democrats have nothing to run on, and so they're choosing to play with fear. I voted to protect people with pre-existing conditions.
The solutions that Martha has voted for actually make the system worse and hurt Arizonans. We can both secure our border and keep our country safe and secure without taking children away from their parents.
I think we can all agree families shouldn't be separated, but I think we can also agree we need to enforce the law.
Throughout the hour, they accused each other of running negative campaigns.
I had over $15 million so far of attack ads against me from Kyrsten Sinema and her allies.
And the debate wrapped with an accusation of treason from Martha McSally.
Please, we are running out of time, so we got to get a response.
Well, we need a response because she owes us an apology.
Please.
Well, Martha has chosen to run a campaign like the one you're seeing right now,
It's
where
treason.
she's engaging in ridiculous attacks and smearing my campaign.
Ultimately, it ended with a handshake, one cemented in the state's political history as the first shared between two candidates, one of whom will become Arizona's first female senator. A day after the debate, Representative Sinema traveled to Arizona Public Media, where she sat down with Christopher Conover. They began their discussion on the issue of health care.
In Arizona, folks only have one option for a provider, and if they don't qualify for a subsidy, it is not affordable. They can't afford to pay the premiums or the deductibles. I actually think that we should reconsider this part of the health care law and figure out a new way to provide care to people who don't get coverage through their employer or who own their own small business. So that's an area of health care law that I want to fix. But I also got to tell you that as I travel the state and hear from Arizonans, healthcare is the #1 issue that people talk to me about. And while they're concerned about the increasing costs of healthcare, they're even more concerned about what's at stake and what they could lose. So people with pre-existing conditions talk to me every single day and are concerned about losing that protection that they have right now. So, whether your son has asthma or your mom has diabetes, right now you can get coverage and you can't be discriminated against for that pre-existing condition. But that's in jeopardy right now. And if it were to be taken away by Congress, they tried once last year, they said they're going to try again right after the election, then nearly 2.8 million Arizonans could lose access to their health care coverage. And that's really scary for people.
The president keeps talking about a wall, a big, beautiful wall that Mexico may or may not pay for. Is a wall part of the answer, and is funding for a wall something you would support?
You know, a physical barrier can be part of an overall solution, but anyone who says that the physical barrier or a wall is the solution, I think is misguided, because that's an 18th century solution to a 21st century problem. We've got to combine all of our resources together to create real security in our border. So in some areas, a wall could be helpful, right? We have it in the city areas in like Naco and Nogales, that makes sense. But in other areas, we really need better tools such as drones and towers and graded roads that allow us to see down into the valleys to interdict the cartels who are bringing in drugs and people. We've really got to have a complex answer to what is a very complex problem. And make no mistake, these cartels are sophisticated and they're well funded. So if we think we can just build a simple wall and that will turn them away, we know that's not accurate. We've got to be more sophisticated than them to stop them from bringing in these harmful drugs and engaging in dangerous human smuggling.
You had some, shall we say, less than flattering comments for the U.S. Senate as a whole over the nomination of now Justice Kavanaugh on the U.S. Supreme Court. If the Democrats take the House, there are already Democrats saying they will begin an impeachment of Justice Kavanaugh. If that went through and you were in the Senate, it could come to the Senate to have him removed. That's the Senate's job to vote that up or down. Would you vote that up or down to remove him?
I would not support impeachment. While I believe that the Senate engaged in a really horrific process, I mean, they turned it into a circus. And I believe they denigrated the importance of this process in the United States Senate. To do something like that again would be inappropriate. What the Senate should be doing is approaching each nominee with the weight of that person's credentials, with his or her approach to jurisprudence, an evaluation of how their peers judge them, and looking for things like their character and their integrity. But you should never turn it into a partisan process. And I would absolutely oppose efforts to try and go back and reopen that difficult time. What I would work for instead is to reinstall the bipartisan process that should exist when judges are nominated, whether it be for a lower court position or for the highest court in the land. This used to be a bipartisan process where 60 members of the Senate, at least, would come together to support a nominee. And that nominee was chosen not because he or she was liberal or conservative, but because he or she was someone who had a record of meting out justice fairly and impartially. That's what our country deserves, and that's what I'll be working for and trying to convince my colleagues to support if I'm a United States Senator.
We've also invited Representative McSally to appear on the show. At this point, we've not scheduled a date for that interview. You can hear more from Sinema on The Buzz, hosted by Christopher Conover. New episodes air Fridays at 8:30 a.m. on NPR 89.1 or listen online at azpm.org. Candidates in the race for Arizona's 3rd Congressional District also debated this week. Democratic incumbent Raul Grijalva and Republican challenger Nicholas Pearson. Before we get into what the two had to say, we'll take a closer look at the district they aim to represent. It's Arizona's 2nd largest congressional district, covering all of Santa Cruz County and portions of Pima, Pinal, Maricopa, and Yuma counties. Our tour begins in the Tucson metro area, where we got insight about its economy. Think business in Tucson, and major employers like Raytheon and the University of Arizona come to mind. But there's more to the picture.
We certainly are dominated by small businesses.
Amber Smith serves as president and CEO of the Tucson Metro Chamber of Commerce. It represents more than 1,500 businesses and advocates for pro-business initiatives at all levels of government.
With that mix of a dominance of small businesses intermingled with some of our corporate partners, it creates a really diverse perspective.
With an estimated population of over 1 million, Pima County has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the state at 4.8%. But recovery from the recession has happened at a slower pace compared to Maricopa County and other cities of similar size.
But at the same time, we have been progressive and consistent in our growth and recovery, which also means whenever there are crashes, we also don't fall as far as some of those other communities.
Smith credits recent development projects like the downtown streetcar for helping jumpstart growth in the area.
We have had $1 billion of both public and private sector investment right here in our downtown. So we are on such a strong trajectory of companies coming in and making Tucson their home.
Smith says maintaining this momentum hinges on continuous upgrades to the area's infrastructure.
Our roadways are absolutely in dire need. We've had national site selectors come out and look at our community because we have some fantastic assets to sell that are really appealing to businesses. However, they identified our roads as being a problem that has got to be addressed.
She sees it as a problem local, state, and federal government can solve collaboratively with more funding. Other issues that have the Chamber's attention: ongoing trade and tariff disputes, and access to a quality education.
Some of our school districts, state and national averages are not competitive, and those employers that are coming in making those high wages want to make sure that their children are going to good schools. So the fact that we have school choice in Arizona, while is controversial from the standpoint of things that companies like to see when they enter our market, that school choice and ability to put your child in a charter school or a private school is really appealing.
For our next stop, we kept the focus on education and how a sluggish economy can challenge the system.
I believe that the economy might be well in other parts of the country, but not here.
Santa Cruz County has one of the highest unemployment rates in the state at nearly 12%. According to census data, between 2010 and last year, the population decreased by nearly 4%. Superintendent Fernando Parra says economic woes are to blame for enrollment drops in the Nogales Unified School District.
Growing up in Nogales, being in this community, it used to be where families were moving here. Well, now we're seeing that families are not just moving out of the state, they're moving back to Mexico. Many are moving to Tucson or Phoenix. We also have a high percentage of poverty of homeless families now, which we call extended families, where they're moving in with aunts and uncles. And so you have a multi-family setting that we didn't experience before.
The school district serves about 6,000 students. 100 fewer students are enrolled this year, causing the district to miss out on about $400,000 in public funding. Despite financial challenges, Parra says the community continues to prioritize education.
Everything is for education. Every initiative that we put out there for the voters, they always, in high numbers, they always support it.
He wants the same commitment at the state and federal level.
Public education only becomes important to the legislatures when there's an election. But what's scary is that didn't even become an importance at the federal level at the past election. Education was not even an item.
Parra is proud of his students.
Nogales High School is at 95% graduation rate, which is huge, one of the highest in the state.
But sees a lack of diverse job opportunities for them at home.
Outside of the Nogales Unified School District as an employer, we have Walmart, we have the county, we have the city, we have the produce industry.
Concerns over funding and enrollment aside, Parra sees the district's proximity to the border as a benefit.
Being here at the border, you're able to not only be bilingual, but be biliterate. And our students, once they graduate, have that opportunity.
Along the border, we moved on to the westernmost county in the district.
I'd say Yuma is much more of a farm town than people understand. I think they think of it as a desert town because you hear so much about the heat in the summer.
Via Skype, we learned more about Yuma's growth from Lou Gum, news director of the local NPR station.
There's a big push to see this whole area as an economic region that isn't just about Arizona or southwestern Arizona, but about an international economic region. You're going to see a lot more of that, both out of in higher education and in industry.
Its main economic driver, agriculture, generates more than $3 billion annually, and it has an important role in national defense with the Marine Corps Air Station and the Yuma Proving Ground.
YPG is a sprawling test facility for the Army and really other military as well, and even international military come here to train.
Even with a strong military presence and deep roots in farming, Gum says residents here often feel left out.
That's fed kind of an attitude here that it is a forgotten place, that it is not remembered by legislators, that it's that policies are set that impact Yuma but don't necessarily have Yuma's input.
Gum says that voters could be energized as issues related to the border and water conservation become more prominent and as its young population grows up.
The average age is 31. There are more people under the age of 18 here than any other age group. So look to the future to see how the vote will change.
Now to the candidates hoping to represent that district. For much of the debate, our panel asked how they would help communities in Congressional District 3 on issues related to education and the economy. Here's what they had to say.
I believe that education, at the bottom line, is the short-term, long-term solution to economic development and to the issues that challenge the district. So I will continue to work on those, and we are involved in those issues and many, many more.
Would you provide one example of what you've done on the federal level to improve education in Congressional District 3?
Expanding Head Start for migrant workers, initiatives to create money and opportunities in legislation for preschool and universal preschool that districts could access in the district, and defending and promoting the idea of adult basic education and retraining for adults. Those have all been specific issues that I've worked on and have been successful at.
How will you balance the urban and rural needs in this district?
Well, the needs of the district are similar in that all of the areas in the district require access to jobs. They require access to quality education. So these opportunities that exist in the district are not unique to an urban area as opposed to a rural area. So we need to provide resources in both the urban and rural areas that are going to be beneficial for our youth, provide job opportunities, increase opportunities for them to do better in life and to improve their standard of living and economic and living conditions. This really needs to be done on the reservations. It needs to be done in all the small communities. And this takes cooperation between the business sector, the private sector, government, and educational institutions. So it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of cooperation in order to do this.
For analysis on some of the races and a look ahead to some of the high-profile rallies that we'll be having in the coming days, I'm joined by Dylan Smith, editor and publisher of the Tucson Sentinel, Jim Kelly, a contributing editor for 1030 KVOI, and Luis Carrasco from the Arizona Daily Star editorial writer. My thanks to all of you for being here. Let's begin with the Senate race, and we'll start with you, Dylan, a clear winner in that one.
Both of the candidates managed to show some strong points and appeal to the voters that they were looking to appeal to. I think Martha McSally was looking to really play to her base and get them a little bit more amped up. And Kyrsten Sinema was trying to, I think, a little bit rise above the fray and be as cool and composed as she could possibly be.
I think they both miscalculated in their performance. McSally was manic, Sinema was sleepy. It was really, I think, undecideds lost. They stuck to their talking points and in very strange fashion.
There were a couple of moments when Sinema could have challenged McSally back a little bit harder and chose not to.
I've been in Martha McSally's presence many, many times when she's giving her presentation and she's talking. That eagerness is in every time she talks to anybody. And so I'm very glad that she got to show that eagerness to a much larger audience, because usually it's in a small group that I've been with her in. I think by far she won.
Did the independents or the undecided come away with saying, oh, I'm going to check that box because now I'm convinced this is the candidate for me?
I would not have been convinced either way.
Okay.
Neither really took the opportunity to get into any discussion of substantive differences on policy. They just stuck to their, most simplest of talking points, and McSally especially kept trying to pivot away to the things that she wanted to talk about rather than the questions that
was
were
it
put
the
before
military?
her. It may have been the military that she was interested in discussing.
And that is one of the big differences. I mean, when Kyrsten Sinema's entire campaign has been, I'm going to try to look as Republican as possible in this red state, when she's running as a Democrat, and her entire history is a very far left progressive history. So
you know that's not so.
But so as
she's voted what percentage of time with the Trump administration?
What, less than 50?
So over 60.
But we've had Republicans that voted for bills that Obama signed. So I mean, it doesn't matter. And under those kinds of conditions, when you're voting on continuing resolutions for the budget and things like that.
This is a very important race in the U.S. Senate.
It's extremely important. Yes. Extremely important.
The entire country is watching this one. Is Arizona the battleground state that we've heard it is? And will this race determine that?
It is a battleground state, and I do believe that this race will determine that. And I think the future of the Senate as an institution, in the way that are they going to return to regular order? Are we going to start calming all of this stuff down and start being civil again with each other? It will be determined by this race.
Arizona's finally going to elect a woman as a senator, no matter
regardless of which party, we'll have a woman
regardless
serving.
of which party, yeah. That it changes. He's right. It changes the face of the Senate.
Luis?
Yeah, but I mean, if the Senate wants to get back to regular order, it has to elect Democrats, and that's even if you reject the ideology, there has to be that balance for there to be an incentive to try and work together and in a bipartisan fashion. Otherwise, the Republicans will just continue to run roughshod over everything and get all they want.
You do realize Republicans believe they were run roughshod over for 8 years, right?
I think objectively we can see.
Republicans were calling for regular order. Senator McCain, they were calling for regular order. The entire Obama administration. So whoever is in power is going to run roughshod over whoever is not.
Well, Senator Flake and Senator McCain were a year ago calling for a return to regular order, and doing so quite loudly. And who's been in control of the Senate? The Republicans. Did they do so? No, they didn't.
All right, let's move away from the Senate. Let's go to Congressional District 3. We had the debate this week here at Arizona Public Media. Congressman Grijalva has been in office for 16 years. Is Nick Pearson that person to challenge him moving into this one?
Nick's a good candidate. He's a very good candidate. We cannot not challenge Raul Grijalva in his home district. We have to put a candidate up. And we look for the strongest candidates, and Nick has been a very strong candidate. He won his primaries 2-1 to his primary opponents, in all 3 counties, by the way. So yeah, Nick's ready to take this. He's ready to take the fight to Grijalva, and it's going to be tough. 2-1, it's going to be tough.
Luis, will it be close? You're smiling over here.
I know. I mean, Mr. Pearson seems like a very nice guy. He is very earnest in his desire to try to help the people of CD3, but he is not a very good candidate. When we met with him for the editorial board doing endorsements, he was really not very informed on the issues. He seemed any type of pushback, he seemed put off by. And so it was really, I wish, honestly, even though I agree with a lot of things that Representative Grijalva believes in, I wish that he had a strong opponent, because that really ups everybody's game. And Pearson is not that candidate.
Dylan, we had 2 debates between these 2 candidates. Nick Pearson was a very different person in the first debate versus the second one. Did he win over anyone in his debate here in Tucson?
I don't know about winning over. Talking about a strong candidate against Grijalva in CD3 is, you have to put that in context. Certainly Pearson's a better candidate than the GOP has fielded in the past.
Jim, will the Republican Party start the search for that strong candidate for CD3? I mean, seems...
No, it's not CD3 that we're going to have to worry about, because the next time we do this, we're going to be in redistricting. So what you're going to see is CD3's shape change, because the demographics of the district are changing, and we're going to see those new numbers in this election. That's one of the good things about why we keep putting people up against Grijalva, even though he's so very, very comfortable in his position. Because every single time we do, we get more data and new numbers out of the precincts that are within that particular area. So regardless of redistricting, as things change, we have the numbers and we have the data at the precinct level. So trust me, Grijalva's not going to want his district 2.5 years from now.
Luis, you alluded to this earlier. Is Grijalva getting too comfortable in his seat?
I think he is. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I think I don't think he's ineffective, as some people have said, but he definitely needs that challenge. And the Republican Party has just not given him a challenge.
Dylan, what are your thoughts? I mean, all eyes will be on Arizona. We have the president who will be in town. We have Bernie Sanders coming to the state in the next week. This is a battleground state. We've said that a moment ago. Is this one last push to really confirm some of these votes?
We're heading into that period when both parties are definitely trying to turn out the base. At this point, I don't think they're really interested in expanding that, in appealing to those folks in the middle who are undecided. The job now, ballots are out, is to get your folks to get those ballots filled in and returned.
Jim, these are heavy hitters in their respective parties. Does it do enough to seal the deal?
The party not designated, it's a fight for those. In CD2, either party, either Ann Kirkpatrick or Leah Marquez Peterson, both of them need 5,000 independent votes to vote for them, to win. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's just the way the numbers come up year after year after year. But I think you're going to see a higher voter turnout this year than we've seen in a long, long time for midterms.
Luis, we have more independents than we do in Democrats in Arizona this time around. This is what it's going to take, these big visits?
I don't know, these big visits, as we've all said, this will play to the base more than the independents, although independents are all, they all lean one way or another.
Yeah, we're talking. I think we need to differentiate between the PNDs, the so-called independent voters, and the undecided voters. There are plenty of people who are not with either party who know exactly who they're voting for.
Yeah,
right?
That's correct. I agree with you on that. Yeah.
But as far as turnout, this will be. I think this will break some records or get very close to it, and that's good for Democrats. But I think that Republicans are also kind of waking up to.
I'm
the blue
looking
wave.
forward to record numbers for this midterm because, like I said, it produces data, and data gives me intelligence, and intelligence gives me, what we call scope to task. And
all right.
So that's where we're at.
Well, gentlemen, if we can all agree, then I think we'll have you back, and we'll talk about that after Election Day. Thank you so much for your analysis.
Thank you.
And that's all for now. Thanks so much for joining us. To get a look at next week's program, visit us on social media and let us know what you think. We'll see you next week.